This is part 1 of 5. If you are confused and need answers, go to the description to see the others for clarification. Let's go back to when creepypasta was arguably at its prime. Back to 2009. Back in 2009, a meme was born known as Slenderman, because he's faceless and also this was the same time as Peter Bear. Yeah, we've come a long way from that, folks. Now he's blown up with games, stories, and even a movie that came out last year, which we'll talk about that later. Most nowadays know him from a web series and also web series quotes because they are considered to be called Slenderverses, which I have another video on coming up later, which made him extremely popular. With that being said, there are a few movies, one being cinematic and another trying to be a web series, and then this one, Slender. Now there are a few others after it, but we'll just stick to this one as it's the first one, or what IMDb tells me anyway. Speaking of which, where am I? We open up to what all horror movies have after the Blair Witch come out. It's December 2nd as a man records a crazy woman talking about how someone stole her children, and how it turns out to be Slender Man. Where we cut to 1 month later on November 13th. This shit ain't gonna get confusing later on. Joel, our cameraman, begins to film Dan, who is working at a bar. Joel says he's making a documentary as he wants Dan to be mic'd up. You know, for just me and this bar guy, and I know in the description it has him like as something like weird bar guy or something like that, but really, I kind of feel bad for this guy. I mean, he didn't really do anything, and he's just trying to, do whatever he can at this bar. He's just drinking, talking to a lady that he likes, what's wrong with that? Unless she's married, or unless she's not interested. While Dan is busy talking to his girlfriend Jillian, we see the loner guy talking to a lady. Go, bar guy, go! Go, bar guy, go! That doesn't work for long, though, as Dan is pretending that he's working and tries to overhear the conversation the blonde guy is having.
I've been told before that I'm kind of like the younger version of Chuck Norris, only with more hair and less beard.
10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, best king, best king.
He asks her out as fucking Joel gets too close to him. Like, really, dude? The guy tells him to fuck off as Dan is in trouble with his boss, as he's told Joel to turn the camera off multiple times. Dan confronts him about if his boss had told him, as he lies to him straight up, as Dan retaliates that he's gonna lose his job if he doesn't turn it off, with Joel refusing to turn it off, cutting back to December 2nd on the train. He confronts the woman and asks her about what she's talking about, to which she gives very little detail, and an Amber Alert goes off, killing my ears and speakers. You're welcome. November 27th comes around with the woman on the radio telling us that an Amber Alert for a missing brother and sister. As Joel and Dan go out to a diner, as we get caught up on some information. Dan still wants to make the documentary since he hasn't been fired, and it's 3 a.m. He's tired and wants to talk to his girlfriend Jillian. They basically shoot the shit about how they want to film something that hasn't been done before and just life, really. Joel gets a good idea that maybe they should make it on someone who many believe in and just debunk them, which in retrospect is a good idea, but depending on what they truly believe in, make it seem as though it's not real or trying to debunk it's not real to them is gonna be quite hard, actually. Back to December 2nd with the woman telling us about how her kids have been gone for 5 years. She still is in shock over the loss of her children. Let's film the poor woman. She becomes more upset as Joel begins digging into her story as the camera glitches. Oh boy. December 3rd comes around with Joel on his computer when Dan comes in saying he found an idea for their documentary. He plays him a video from his phone, which was the woman on the train. They set the plan in motion with the camera cutting in the names of the woman's children when they disappeared, with the title of their documentary being Outrunning Shadows. The documentary shows a few people that knew the boys and a few investigators that talk about the children as we hear a few things about their disappearances and how similar they were other tripled. And the kids had been acting weird, almost like they were sick. When the teacher told another teacher what she believed and what she had seen, they go to check on them to find that they were gone. Along with the missing kids, the mother began to keep looking for her kids, blaming others, calling the investigators for answers as it happens too often. It even got so bad that the teacher had to get a restraining order against the mom. In retrospect, I will give this movie this. This is by far the best part of the movie, and I actually do really like this part. Out of like the whole film, that one is by far my favorite part. We get another story in with the guy named Brian Williams who died in a car accident. But did he really? Well, the police footage doesn't show that he was actually killed in a car accident. So we cut to Joel getting into his car, finding a package for him with a sticky note saying "Justice for Martin." Inside are documents along with Martin's body and a DVD. December 22nd. Dan and Joel are talking about the crazy lady to Ryan and now camera woman, who I'm guessing is Dan's girlfriend Jillian, because I have no clue. They're there to interview the woman as filming begins. Also, her name is Millie. Just thought I'd let you know. She tells them the story about her sons were playing with a group of kids when they were called by the teacher and then they were abducted. But by what? When they were talking about her on the train ride, she does admit that she was changing medicine, so... Actually, that kind of makes sense. Depending on the medication, it can mess with you mentally and physically and a whole bunch of other stuff. Actually, whenever I was on, it kind of made me really sleepy. Like, I'd get home and automatically crash, and then I wouldn't wake up until 3 in the morning, and then I would. And then, like, out of all that, I hardly talked to my parents or was even sociable for a while there. So, yeah, I can kind of see how that medicine would fuck her over. Dan goes sneaking around the boys' room as he says something isn't adding up with her story. The boys' rooms are set up as they still live there, and there are drawings of on the beds of Slender Man.
Telling us about this. Why has she changed her mind?
Joel, you saw the footage.
I did.
That day, she was terrified. She was scared to death. She was convinced that something took her kids. I don't know what to do, but Millie out there was positive that a tall, shadowy, slender figure is after her.
Holy shit!
What?
5 years earlier, we see the boys playing around as an Amber Alert noise comes on, with us cutting back to them leaving the house. January 4th, we see everyone in the video chat as they look up what Slenderman is and where he had come from. All this different information about the tall man might be, just a theory, might be because he can teleport to different countries. That's why they have different meanings behind every single one of them. After a few minutes of talking, the good stuff happens. Jillian's door opens and closes. Their next assignment is to make a Slenderman costume, as well as get to the school after hours. Oh no. Dan doesn't feel right about doing it, but continues anyway. I feel like I'm forgetting something, you know? It feels like something's not right here. Oh yeah, Slenderman, where the fuck is he? We're near the middle of it, and we have pictures of Slender Man. We have some information about him. Where is he in this movie? For real. Your movie is Slender. You're talking about Slender Man. Show me Slender Man. April 2nd. Dan records the measurement process as Ryan changes. Dan asks about what she feels about all this. When she agrees, she doesn't feel right doing it. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I don't know if they thought they were clever about not saying Slender Man or not, or if they had to buy the rights to it, so that's why they kind of just said Tall Man. But every time they say Slender Man, it glitches out regardless, so I don't know if they just had an issue not getting rights, or they just thought they were clever. I mean, if they're trying to be clever, it's fine, but we all know it's Slender Man, so it's like, why'd you hide it if you were trying to be adventurous about keeping the identity secret, even though you clearly dress up as Slender Man?
That's Slender.
The whole thing is to provoke a real response from her. So regardless of whether or not she's on meds, if she turns around and she sees us...
October 27th, Ryan films his girlfriend and him saying Joel wants him to film a bunch of stuff, with his girlfriend asking if they should be doing it, but have to move forward because the investors are interested.
What's that? What's outside?
And then their parrot cuts out.
Someone open up the freaking blinds so we get some light in here.
Let's just open the blinds.
It turns out it was just a prank to show what scares they can pull off as we cut to November 11th. They have stuff ready like a little boy and girl crying, dark hallways, and a nice little hiding space so Slenderman can run after Millie. Dan hears a noise down the hall and goes with Joe to investigate. We cut to Jillian and Ryan, who tells Ryan that Dan is having some weird dreams. When it comes to the recordings for real though, she hears something down the hall too. She's ignored as they continue filming. Joe tells Dan to call Millie and Dan refuses, walking away as Joel is left to call and have her come. She agrees to come as the phone call is just...
Millie, hi. We interviewed you about a year ago. About your boys, yeah. Well, I didn't want to let your story go away. I still wanted to tell it. So I've been doing some digging and, I'm down here at your boys' old school and I may have found a lead to what happened to them. I can't tell you over the phone so much. You need to come down here as soon as you can. Thank you. Bye.
After Jillian hears this, she's done, as that's not what she signed up to do.
You're right. Scaring her is one thing, but telling her that we might find a lead about where her kids are is so uncool for this traumatized woman who basically is still on the manhunt for her kids. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Joel runs after them, lying that he's not filming, and he tries to do the guilt trip them by saying that he put everything into this, and this is all he has, and blah, blah, blah. It works, as it's time to get the show on the road. Millie arrives, make it inside the school and down the hall as planned, but when it's Ryan's time to shine, it seems he's in a no-show. The lights turn off as her screams are heard, but something isn't right. Now it's a manhunt for Millie, but one key thing that Ryan adds is that he heard static from where he was, as the light might be making a buzzing sound and not static. And that's when Millie was running down the hall, but now she's nowhere to be seen. They hear a noise down the hall, thinking it's Millie as the lights go out and someone else runs up the stairs. The plan is now that Jillian and Dan go down the hall while Joel goes upstairs. Joel goes upstairs and sees that Millie has not left yet because his car is still there, cutting to Dan and Jillian as Jillian is not acting right with the camera glitching happening with the audio of kids playing coming through, freaking Jillian out. It turns out that the cameraman Eric is hearing the kids as well, with Joel not hearing anything as he soon disappears. Jillian is back in the main room as Dan catches up with her. She's still in shock. He tries to calm her down.
So we're just basically losing everyone. We've lost Millie, we lost Eric. Where's Ryan?
I thought he was with you guys.
Call him. Also, Ryan's gone.
The lights go out as Jillian runs off as Dan and Joel chase after her.
Jillian! Jillian! Jillian!
Excuse me, what?
Jillian's gone as Dan and Joel fight back and forth. They hear crying from the mechanical room and head inside, and surprisingly find Jillian inside. Her mouth forms together, the camera glitches to Dan getting a head start as Joel follows behind. The only issue is that he seems he can't leave, with Jillian running by prompting Joel to follow with her and the camera glitching to the TV showing the suit of the Slenderman costume on the floor. It glitches out to Joel sitting on the ground in front of the TV lap and being sad and all that jazz as Joel says,
You're not real.
before cutting to black.
Wait, Joel won? Or did he lose? Either way, let's just get this over with the good or bad. I just want to get out of here.
The good. The actors are believable in what they want to make the film, and the woman is very believable. The ending is suspenseful, and the glitches are pretty good. It was a nice touch to hide Slenderman like someone never knew who this was, would believe it was some innocent way of them deceiving a woman that turns dark. The best way is the interview with everyone is believable, as if it was a real interview of a real missing person. The bad. It is very, very, very slow. They don't use phones to call when the others are going missing. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out if Jillian was a different person or not from the brown-haired girl on Skype. Slenderman is never shown, but I guess that's why it's Slender. but it's clearly Slender Man. The only one we get is the dress-up skit version. Also, Joe is a fucking dick. He should have died as Dan should have lived. The dates for some of this stuff don't need to be in there. Like 5 years later with the boys could have been a video that we were given to share, or even played on that little TV that played on in the little school. Or no dates at all, because it's random days and time anyway. Most of the time it doesn't even matter because there is no time or when filming and when Millie was supposed to be at the school. And if I remember correctly, this day the footage was found on November 14th. November 11th is when the prank happened, but why they had their documentary done, like, for real? November 11th, which is when the prank happened. But why they had their documentary done, like, for real? Talk to the police, investigators, people involved, and footage to slap onto a time television, have 10 ads every 10 minutes, and boom, an hour-long documentary. And also, this is kind of remember me as something, but speaking of documentary, this documentary should have been done. Why does she still have their number? Like, why does he still have her number? The documentary is done and if they have their documentary done like they said, then why does she still have their number? And also the guy with Brian Williams, why was this added in there besides just this isn't a thing? If Brian Williams was getting deep into this, wouldn't Slender Man have taken him too?
For real though, since it's just mostly me nitpicking at little bits of stuff here, I actually thought this movie wasn't that bad. I thought it would be way far worse, but you know, it actually wasn't bad. But with that being said, I think it's time for me to get some food, 'cause I am starving.